And so we're back to the BT-7 again. Driver certainly has a fairly novel way of getting in and out. You just remove the entire front hatch. Still, I guess if you had to get out in a hurry, the normal method is you actually hold on to the 45mm and use that to haul yourself up and out. As long as I'm not actually in the process of driving, this is actually kind of comfortable. My only concern is that when I put my foot on the clutch, my knee is way up in my face, and there's so much fluid flowing around on here, I've got no traction whatsoever on my knees. The only other point to note is that one doesn't get a lot of comfort from the solidity of the armor. However, that said, let's have a look at the panels and we'll see what makes it work. Controls for the driver mechanic are pretty much standard, at least to start with. Clutch pedal, brake pedal, which also doubles as your handbrake, and the accelerator on the right. Of course, you have a gear shift, 3 forward, 1 reverse. Steering is conducted by use of the 2 handles. Left handle, right handle, of course, will be to steer left, steer right. The first pull is going to be just to release the clutch. Second pull will actually apply the brake. Now, this is all fairly well and simple until you realize that when you have no tracks, the application of the brake to the final drive isn't going to do you enough good. So what you need to do then is steer the front wheels. This is done by use of a steering wheel. You simply slide it on, release a safety lock, tilt upwards, and all of a sudden you are now steering your tank. Kind of neat, actually. I am not, however, entirely overjoyed by the presence in here of a sledgehammer. By reputation, to get the vehicle into gear, you had to whack it. I did not bring this in here. This was left here by the previous driver. I'll just put the safety interlock back in again. Don't want the wheels spinning when we're driving along on the tracks. Panel on the left-hand side. A couple of different components. Actually, we'll start off way at the bottom here. This is your master power. You push down, master power is now flowing through the system. Push in, master power is off. Once your master power is on, your ignition switch for the main engine is here. To actually get it going, you crank the magnetos, and that's this little yoke here. The all-important horn button. Push this, horn go beep, or honk, or whatever it wants to do. Light switch, you need one of those too. And there is an intercom system in the tank. With this, the driver could select which person he was going to talk to on the intercom. As we go around, I should add that this ammeter gauge is not original. We'll see down at the bottom another unique feature of the BT. Now, you may recall on the Chieftain that there were 2 engines but only 1 speedo. Well, in this case, we got 1 engine and 2 speedos. How is that possible? You can only go a certain speed. Well, what they've done is there is a wheel speedo and there is a track speedo, and depending on which one you're running at the time, you look at the appropriate one. And you'll note also it's not your typical dial. It's actually a ball, for lack of a better term, which shows you your speed. Other things, we got oil pressure, fuel pressure, oil temperature, and a rev counter. And that's basically it for the instrument panel. The last thing I'll note here, this big lever here, it's a fuel primer pump. So actually, before you crank the magnetos, you pump up and down on the fuel a few times. You watch your fuel pressure gauge increase, and that's when you know you're ready to start. That's it. Now, please ignore the big engine behind me. And also there is another instrument panel behind me. When they dug this thing out of the swamp in 1999 or so, when it was negative 30 degrees Celsius, they weren't all that interested in getting everything quite right. The engine, unfortunately, did either not survive the submersion or did not survive the recovery. So in order to get it running, they've replaced the engine entirely and put something bigger and better into it, which means that it actually doesn't really fit in the engine compartment. It's kind of projecting through into the crew compartment. The batteries have been moved out of the rear of the vehicle and now where the ammunition stowage used to be under the turret floor. And lastly, they actually had to install an entirely new instrument panel, which as we're looking around the tank, you'll see on the right hand side. Not much else in here really. I mean, we've got stowage compartments for the coaxial machine gun. Behind me you can see the ammunition for the 45mm, and well, that's it. Next stop, the turret. Our last stop is going to be the turret. Now, although it looks actually kind of roomy, bear in mind this is not a complete vehicle. The most significant thing this is missing is the recoil guard, which will come all the way back out here to stop the crews losing their shoulders when the gun comes back. So if I sit straight forward, you can see how far out my shoulder is compared to the gun. It's going to be a very, very narrow experience. Combine this with the fact that there's no floor, well, there's no turret floor, there's no basket, you just have the ammunition that you're on top of, and things suddenly get very cramped indeed. Traverse, simple enough. You have a travel lock, which you disengage. There are two speeds for the wheel, a high range and a low range, and you use one for either traversing quickly or the other for placing on lay, and to select between the two, you'll pull out or push in the wheel. Unfortunately, broken on this system. There is a elevation travel lock as well, used simply enough here, which is currently applied, disapplied, and elevation and depression is very simple. Incidentally, this is also how you secure the driver's hatch for a road march. So what you'll do is you elevate the gun, swing up the driver's hatch, lower the gun, engage the travel lock. Oh, there you go. And that will secure the driver's hatch in place and prevent it from falling forward and slamming the driver in the head, which probably will be a significant emotional event. Gun itself, 45mm, very common gun of the Red Army of the late 30s. To fire it, you had foot triggers. If for some reason the foot trigger didn't work, there was a way of manually setting off the gun by simply pushing this handle forward. Coaxial machine gun on the right hand side, and if you look at the ammunition that's available, you really get the impression that the coax was a primary weapon system. The loader has 7 rounds of 45mm ammunition available to him, and an additional 44 minus 7, there's my mental arithmetic for you, scattered around the hull. Lots and lots of coaxial ammunition drum in the turret, in the driver's compartment, under the whole floor, all over the place. The coax seemed to be the primary weapon system. Of course, feeding that was the loader's job as well. Outside of that, visibility outside, you have tiny little slits, which terrible visibility. But I guess it's better than nothing at all. Commander's panoramic housing for the sight up here, simple enough. And beyond that, the last thing he has are these little pistol ports. There are 3 of them scattered around the vehicle and are undone by simply twisting, and the thing will fall out. The last thing I'll mention is at the rear of the turret, well, that's where your radio would be. Beyond that, very simple seats, no turret basket, simple gun, point and shoot. What can go wrong? That said, I think that about concludes our tour of the BT, so I'm going to hop outside. So that's BT-7, probably the most unique vehicle we're ever going to see on the hatch. How many they built probably depends on who you ask. I've seen numbers between 3,000 to almost 5,500. It was certainly a mainstay of the Red Army at the beginning of the war. However, with this much armour and a little 45mm gun, it just wasn't going to hack it. So it was withdrawn from service, but the design evolved a little bit through a couple of intermediary tanks into the T-34 that basically won the war for the Red Army. I hope you found the tour somewhat informative, and we'll see you on the next one.